the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. The show that gives you the lowdown on how to become a successful real estate entrepreneur. With more than 30 years of experience, America's top female real estate investor Dwan is an expert in financial freedom and turning dreams into realities. Now's your chance to become a Dwandernaire with the help of Dwan. Here's to a flaming hot foreclosure market with the help of Dwan. Cheers.
Hey everybody, I'm so excited that you're here today. Welcome to another episode of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your host, Dwan Twyford, America's most sought after real estate investor. And we're here for another exciting episode. We want to get inside the minds of successful people, see how they got to where they are, and hopefully you'll hear something today that will turn on that little valve for you and go, hey, that's the thing I've been missing. The thing that this person said, if I just did that, that would help me get to the next level. So it's all about finding out how successful people got there and how we can help you get there too. So I'm very excited today. We have Miss Marissa Brassfield. So how are you today, girl?
Hello, I am Dwanderful now that I'm here with you.
I love it. So basically, well, first of all, we want to have a toast. We do drinks with Dwan to start our day. You're having water?
Or moonshine.
Oh, let me get water or moonshine. So cheers to you, honey.
Cheers.
So everybody just take a deep breath, stretch, shake off whatever you got going on, and open your mind to having some fun with us for the next 45 minutes. And just whatever you have going on, just shake it out so you can have some fun with us and hopefully unlock some little nuggets there in your mind. So Miss Marissa, you are a category of 1. And basically what we like you to do is tell us like who you are now, what you do, how we can get a hold of you. And then we're going to backtrack because basically we want to know what's your deal.
I love it. Well, I'm Marissa Brassfield. I'm the founder of Ridiculously Efficient. It's my S Corp. It's just like my organizing body because I knew early on that I would never be an employee. Always, looking out for number 1. And you can find me at efficient.af. That's my real domain name.
Spell efficient for people.
EFFICIENT.AF. There we are. And my unique ability.
AF?
Yeah.
EfficientAF.com or efficient?
Nope. Efficient.af. Or if you're feeling ambitious, it's ridiculously-efficient.com. But that often opens up.
And you know what AF stands for these days. That is hilariously efficient as.
Exactly.
I love that even more now that I know that. I did not. I just was thinking .com. Like, oh, hang on a minute. Yes, I got it. That right there is its own branding.
It is. And really efficient, ridiculously efficient came out of, that was how I branded my freelance activities coming out of college, and the name stuck, and it's become just a recurring, like very concise way to articulate who I am and what I do. And to say it a bit longer, my unique ability is really about amplifying truth, interpreting significant ideas, and using influential storytelling to catalyze impact with authenticity, ease, and joy. And so I have worked with and around and among some exceptional entrepreneurs, global world leaders, Fortune 10, 50, 100 leaders and entrepreneurs, and really taking their ideas and turning them into high performance teams, highly profitable business units, personal brands, and really it's all about catalyzing impact. And my story has been in creating my own impact through multiplying and leveraging other people's impact, and by helping other people do and be and achieve more in the world. That's how I'm getting my impact as well. So I am traditionally behind the scenes for entrepreneurs who are out there in the world. And so if you're listening and you're an introvert and you are not thinking that you are the one that's on the stage like Tony Robbins or whoever jumping around, like, that's me, girl. There is someone behind the scenes pulling the strings, and that it me.
And something that you said, I feel like most people think you have to be an extrovert to be successful, but that is not true, because I know hundreds of other speakers, platform speakers, and they're like, hey, but when they get off stage, they're shy, they're very introverted, they're nothing like the stage presence. I happen to be one who's just crazy all the time. So what you see up there, what you see right here, it's all me all the time. I tell my husband, I said, it must be exhausting to be married too, because I'm just like all the time. But yeah, that just saying that, I think that helps people, because I feel like most people think you have to be a super extrovert and super out there to be successful, and that's really not true.
It's not. And it's really, these days, it is all about authenticity. And we hear that, and we hear authenticity and transparency, but what does that truly mean? And I think people today are more savvy than ever at looking through the BS. Like, the BS meter is especially high. We know when people aren't being real. We know when people are making things up and inflating. There's sort of like the Instagram reality, where it's the highlight reel of your life, and that behind the scenes. And I do, unfortunately, some of the most successful business owners out there that are preaching out in the world about whatever, their home life might be a mess, or their health might be a mess.
Yeah.
And it really is about bringing your whole self. And I think, in many situations, introverts have an advantage, because we're kind of sitting back and listening and taking notes, and you can learn so much about power dynamics, how people communicate, what people are listening for, what's important to them, what resonates with them, what motivates them. And it actually helps me, all that listening and nuance and interpretation gives me a leg up when it's time to advocate for myself, even negotiate, or present an opportunity and get in kind of sales mode, because I have those moments where, because I've kind of sat back and, listened a bit more, I have those extra data points to bring into the conversation.
Yeah. I already love just a few of those things that you said right there, because I feel like a lot of the things that you said are things that keep people from trying. And with you having your business where you're helping people, helping with the truth, the storytelling, all the things like that, like, that's its own set of skills. And I would think an average person that was introverted, like, oh, I could never help successful people be more successful. How could I do that? I'm so shy and quiet. But that doesn't mean, like, you're not, like you said, you're listening, you're soaking it in, you're observing, and then you're giving out like really great information to people.
And I had a mentor early on who paraphrased a quote that's always stuck with me. And the quote was, "I walk through the doors that open for me." And I think that that's such a fascinating way to look at things, because if you are looking for opportunity, and, plot twist, if you look for opportunities, you're going to find them. But then also just boldly walking through and strolling in like you own the place, or at least like you belong. And there's that, like, kind of fake it till you make it moment. I remember there's the first time I was in a closed door meeting, and it was Tony Robbins, Peter Diamandis, me, and Tony's assistant, just four of us, door shut, and just listening and watching and observing how these two high frequency, high intensity humans communicated and shared ideas and brainstormed, like, just sitting and observing and opening up every possible sense to how that unfolded. It's more than the business ideas. It's how they captured ideas, how they communicated and listened to each other and built on each other. Like, there are so many micro lessons, and just saying yes to the opportunity, saying yes to walking through doors and being part of meetings and things. That's where so much magic happens.
So much. I know. I love when I'm in a room with, someone like you, successful people, anyone. I like how freely everyone just shares ideas, and someone will say this and the other person's like, oh my gosh, hey, I could do that. And then you say something like, hey, I could do that. And the sharing and the ideas is what helps a lot of people become successful and make it to the next level. Because when you don't
Very,
have anyone to share or bounce, that's why I like masterminds and things. When you have no one to share your ideas or bounce things off of, it can be really frightening to take just any step.
very much, because I think the worst thing we can do is worry alone. And there's a lot of worrying.
That is so true. Especially
And
with COVID, everyone's like so worried. Deep down, everyone's afraid they're going to get sick or die or something. And that puts a lot of fear in the minds of people right now, worldwide.
It does. And when you're operating and living in that place, everybody's going to feel fearful or feel
Yeah.
bad feelings or negative feelings for a little while. But like, if you live there, it's hard to dig yourself out. It's hard to steel
Yeah.
up that courage and that bravery. And it's that courage that's exactly what we need going into any situation, whether it's
Anything.
meeting a new friend or pitching a business deal or pivoting, reinventing yourself. A lot of us had to reinvent how we do business when COVID struck, and some aspect of either the supply chain or logistics or how we made money was
Yeah.
affected in some way. For some of us, pretty profound, but there were a lot of opportunities for those who were able to very quickly steel up that courage and that bravery to just do it. You opened 4 businesses during the pandemic. That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Well, my husband and I think I might have told you this in one of our conversations. We're sort of rehabbing this very small little town in Iowa. And the whole purpose is to make it like an antique destination. People in the Midwest, they love to go antiquing. So we bought 20 buildings. We had one, we're gonna buy 2. Then my husband, when you meet him in person, you're like, oh my God, he's insane. So we had 20. But as we were rehabbing these spaces, I thought, you know what, we need to put something in that'll bring people down, because Iowa did not like completely shut down like that. But right across the bridge is Illinois, locked down like tight as Fort Knox over there. And people were nervous, but people want to go out and do things. So we put in a little antique mall and a little clothing business and a little coffee shop that has live music. And people were just like so excited to have somewhere to go, but not venture far.
Yeah.
Like I could just drive over the bridge and I could go have lunch and have some coffee and a pie and listen to this music and go home and not be exposed to like walking into like, the giant stadium or something like that. And and they've all done really well. I was like, how is this happening? But people were tired of being locked down, even in the beginning of lockdown.
Yeah.
Like
It's
after
so
a month, I
true.
was just like, because I was in Florida and the beaches were closed and they had police tape and a cop at all the beaches. If you walked onto the beach, they would like arrest people. I thought, holy cow, like seriously, it's the beach. It's
Yeah.
wide open.
That doesn't belong to you. It belongs to everybody.
Oh my God, I know, it's crazy. So, and I get it. A lot of people died, a lot of people were scared. I totally understand, but there's still so many people right now still stuck in the fear mode.
It's true. And I feel like there is that it's very easy. It's very present with media and social
Oh,
media to just get immersed in negative news. Something I learned from Peter Diamandis is the amygdala effect, and how this little almond shaped sliver in our brains that protected us, thousands of years ago, the crack in the grass could have been a lion or a predator that was going to end your take your genes out of the gene pool. So we evolved, and our brains evolved to pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news. And then, as
oh,
Peter says, yeah, it's wild. So
I did not
Peter,
know that.
oh my gosh. So mini tangent. So in Peter's
No,
first,
I want to hear it.
yeah,
This is awesome. I
so
didn't. I know the news is like if it bleeds, it leads.
that's right. That's exactly why. So Peter Diamandis, in his book, Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think, it came out in 2012. It's since been updated with charts and graphs. It's in paperback form now. It's an awesome, awesome book. It really shows how, for a variety of reasons, the world is better than you think. But one of the elements is this amygdala effect, basically, where the news media knows that we pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news. So that's why, and he took this, he did like his own personal research and just took newspapers and counted up the ratio of negative headlines to positive headlines. And it's just absolutely wild. And then if you hear it, like, do you remember a few years ago when Malaysian Airlines, like Flight 370, it disappeared?
Yes, I do.
We
Yes.
heard about that plane for months. They recycled that headline for months. And then, of course, tragedy, really bad. Like I'm not diminishing what happened,
I'm
but
with you.
the fact that we heard about it and then COVID happened. And I thought that MH370 was one thing, but now COVID, and you just hear round the clock and it's this variant and that variant. And, again, I don't mean to diminish, and there are very real
I'm with you.
fears
I
that
don't
people
diminish it.
have.
I mean, I know people got sick. I know people died. I know all that terrible things, but I just decided like we can't live in fear. I can't live that way. I can't be afraid to go outside and say hi to my neighbor and freaking melt down if someone talks to me.
I can't live there. I can't stay there. I can't create there. That is not living. It is not living to me. So, there is this like, what can you do? What do you have control over? And as entrepreneurs, we have control over how we provide value in the market.
Yep.
And so Superpower Accelerator, this logo behind me, one of the businesses that I operate with, Mike Koenig's, we coach entrepreneurs. And historically, that's involved a 3-day in-person experience in La Jolla, California. So part of San Diego. Beautiful, like half the fun is the environment, right? You're in this beautiful beach environment and you're creating and co-creating your next vision, your next big thing, or reinventing yourself or your business. So when COVID hit, all of a sudden, nobody wants to travel. People weren't really sure about it. Early on last year, weren't really sure about traveling.
Yeah.
Airlines were shut down, all of this. And pretty much in 48 hours, we pivoted to an entirely virtual business offering. So it was like, oh, let's just see if we can do Vision Day virtually. And we didn't change prices. That was a big moment. Like, do we lower the price because it's not in person? I was like, no, actually, you're getting more of our time because we're not getting up to, go and do things. And so we kept the price the same and opened up the market. And we ended up serving clients in Singapore, in India, in Alaska, places that would have never been on the radar. Now it's like it opened up the world to us. And yes, we had some 9 p.m. meetings where it was tough, and or 6 a.m. meetings because of the time zone change. But it is possible. So it's just like when you're looking for those opportunities and people who are willing to do business with you, like, can you make some tweaks and some accommodations without compromising your values?
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to ask you, how old are you?
37.
Oh my gosh, you look amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Amazing. So 37, you work with these super high dollar people. So what was Marissa, like what was 13, 14, 15? What were you doing then? Where were you? What were you doing? Like, where was your head at as a teen, like a young teen?
Yeah. So I live in my childhood house. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I was a softball player, very, very good, very just top level. And at that time I was a 4-sport athlete. So it was volleyball, soccer, softball, and cross country. Softball was my primary sport. So it was summer ball, winter ball, spring season sport, and then, had an off season to train. But that was always volleyball season. So, I was playing all the time. I didn't work. My sole job, so to speak, was to get recruited to go to college. And then I was also in student government. I was really active in volunteering. And my big thing was I wanted to get the hell out of LA and get as far away. It was always in the pursuit of freedom, right? I didn't, there was a lot of pressure to, a lot of Asian households, there's pressure to succeed and drive and, the whole thing. And then from my dad's side, I'm mixed. So British, Irish, and German on my dad's side, Filipino on my mom's side. But from my dad's side, it was very much the you're the redemption of all my personal failings growing up in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, no.
So it was just like this recipe for ambition. And granted, like I give them a lot of credit. They parented me in the exact way that I needed.
Yes.
And back in the rebellious teen days, I just wanted to get the heck out as far away as I could. So I was like, okay, how can I realistically get as far away as possible, but with it in like an acceptable, successful way? I was like, okay, I'm going to get recruited to an Ivy League school. So my whole focus was figuring out how to diversify my my college application from an achievement standpoint. So, I mean, I was a standout softball player. I mean, really just top, always in the newspaper. So I had a ton of clips and write-ups, and I marketed myself. I had a one sheet. I had a recruiting video. I sent cover letters out. And so Princeton was the first team that was recruiting me. And then they flew me out for a recruiting trip. I had a great time. I committed early action, and the early decision time came. I got the results and they waitlisted me. They ended up going with another pitcher who ended up 4 years all Ivy. So they made a really great recruiting choice. But December 15th, the day that early action decisions went out, the Penn coach called me, University of Pennsylvania, founded by, back in 1740 or so. Coach called and she said, hey, did Princeton give you an offer? And I said, no, they waitlisted me. And she goes, would you like to come to Penn? Now, Penn and Princeton are rivals. They've been that way for hundreds of years. So I'm just like, why, yes, I would. So I ended up, ended up going to Penn and loving it.
And on a scholarship.
Yeah. So Ivy League doesn't do like
athletic
scholarships, but they do merit-based financial aid, and we merited financial aid. But the cool thing about that is the little loophole is because it's not an athletic scholarship. If you don't end up playing, they can't take it away because your need has not changed. The only thing that changed.
Oh, nice.
So there's the hack. So I get in.
Hey, there's a hack for everything. Every little thing's got to happen somewhere.
And it's honestly like, I've just always looked for the loophole. I've always looked for I live in the gray area. It's never black or white. It's always somewhere in between. And I'm looking for that opportunity, and I'm looking for how can I meet my, get the result.
Yeah.
In the most unique and authentic way possible. So, I've always been resourceful like that. I've always been someone who's figured out a way. One of the early ways that I beat shyness on the Penn campus was I gave like the admissions tours, where they take you around and sightsee and all that. But I loved my big passion was travel writing. Like back when Gourmet magazine was a thing, I wanted to be Ruth Reichel, like the editor-in-chief of Gourmet magazine. I read all of her books. I wanted to be her. And then Anthony Bourdain, rest easy.
I loved him.
He came out and it was like Kitchen Confidential and all of the series that came after that. I was like, oh my God, I want to be a travel writer. So I doubled down. I ended up getting a journalism degree or creative writing at Penn, but it was all journalism classes, and started working in the restaurant industry, high-end restaurants. So in Philadelphia and other places now, but principally in Philadelphia, there's the Star Restaurant Organization, amazing restaurant group. And started working there as a hostess, and then as a food runner and server and bartender. And then you get used to talking to people, you get used to selling. There's like suggestive selling, so you learn salesmanship and marketing and psychology, but experience management. And then it's interesting because the little threads of journalism and storytelling, travel, fine dining, like all of these things prepared me for these big, high-powered executive meetings, because I could walk in and I had something to say about wine and about cocktails and like what they should be drinking and eating. I had tried and tasted things from all over the world. So I'd had these experiences that I was able to pull in and very quickly create rapport. So all the little things. And one of my favorite, I just love this. I love hiring restaurant managers into technology businesses because they know how to hustle, they know how to sell, and they're used to pain and the relative like relief of like, you're not going to have to kill yourself for 16 hours a day. Just move over here and use your multitasking brain. Like, they love it. and I love it.
I love that story. It's so, wow, you are just like, that is so amazing. So as I'm hearing you talk about the restaurants and stuff, maybe the fact that I worked my entire decade of my 20s in clubs and restaurants and bars and all that helped me with my people skills. Because I was so shy in high school. Oh my God, I was so shy. If you had ever said to me you'd be a public speaker, I would have been like, no, I can guarantee you all my life I will not be doing that.
I used to love declaring. I used to love the story that I hated public speaking. It was just so natural to me to say. And then I was like, actually, I kind of love it.
Well, it's funny because you talked about Tony Robbins. So I grew up in a very small town in West Milton, Ohio, like really in the country. And I was that really super tall. I was 5'10" in high school, super skinny and just like painfully shy. And people would talk to me, my face would just turn beet red. I was just like, oh my God, I kept my head down. I was so shy. And then in my 20s, I moved to Florida. And every time a Tony Robbins seminar would come through town, I loved to go to those. So I started going to all those and I'd be like, yeah, screaming and raw. And then I'd buy all the different programs. And I remember one day thinking, you know what? I want to be up on that stage. I want to do that. And then I would think like, how did this girl want to become that girl? And it was really from going to all these exciting events and just all the how excited I felt. I thought, gosh, I'd like to be able to do that for other people. If I can encourage other people like they're encouraging me, I'm going to be a public speaker someday. And something in my mind changed and I do.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
For
It's crazy
me,
how, so see, Tony Robbins has influence on both of us.
yeah, very much,
We
very
need
much.
to get Tony on and do a triple podcast. Me, you, Tony. You
Oh,
already know him. So I'm already one person away right now.
I have done the impossible, and that's a tough one. These
Ah,
days.
my God, how much fun would you have? Especially if we found out like a bunch of fun things about when he was younger. So you're like an athlete, you're going to school, you're doing this journalism, and you're young still. So where did you get where you're at? Like what happened in your path? You're like, okay, I'm gonna help entrepreneurs and people. And where did that happen? Where'd that passion come from?
Yes, I mean,
'Cause that's a great jump.
it,
And I know athletic, I can see why you're like, you look like you're in super good shape. It's like, wow, 4-star athlete, holy cow. I barely could swing it back. I was the most I was on the basketball team, I think only because I was so tall. I was the most unathletic person.
Well, it's hilarious you say that. So 5'10" and skinny. I'm like, come out to LA. You would have been like one of the mean girl popular kids. Cause in like the 90s, Baywatch time, like
Oh, I remember
everybody
Baywatch.
wanted to be tall and skinny. And then here I am short and curvy. And it wasn't until J-Lo that it was like, oh, there's someone who is shaped like me. And and now it's all the rage, but like not in the 90s. But
well, girl, I graduated high school in the 70s. So go back to the
times.
70s. In the 70s, but in the 70s, everyone was still wearing like the big bell bottoms and you could be like a hippie chick with my hair was like down to my waist. So I could be kind of like that cool sort of hippie chick girl. But gosh darn, I was afraid to talk to anybody. And at one point, I was the tallest person in my entire school for a while. So
oh my gosh,
caught up, and that even made me more horrified because all the guys were like this tall because they hadn't had their growth spurt yet. And I was like, oh, could this be any worse? I'm shy, I'm tall, I'm skinny, I'm horrified. But then I got in my 20s. I was like, okay, being tall, being thin, having like, some girls right there. Not a bad thing. But it was horrible in high school. It took me a while to grow into myself. And clearly I have no boundaries now. So
I mean, boundaries are just not.
They're for other people.
Yeah.
It's like rules. Rules and boundaries are for other people. When you said you live in the gray area, I just started laughing because I'm that person. Like if it's supposed to be done this way but I like to do it that way, there's got to be a little gray in there somewhere to kind of loophole things around to what I want.
It's true. And it's like, I've been around enough crazy entrepreneurs over the last like 13, 14 years that like, I now am convinced there is what everyone else does. It's like, you just follow what everyone else tells you to do. And then it's like, do whatever the hell you want. And it's going to work out. Like the whole notion of like, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Like that whole way of life.
I teach every one of my students, especially the women that their husbands don't want them to do it. I'm like, listen, buy the program, do it, and then better to ask for forgiveness and permission. Don't ask, don't say, just do it, and then say, oh, I'm sorry. And my husband's in the other room. I do that all the time. Anytime he's like, don't do this, don't do that. I'm just like, I do it anyway. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So that is my motto: better to ask forgiveness than permission.
It's interesting that you say, yeah, I mean, and it's interesting that you say the like to women especially, because I do find that it's much more common for women to accommodate and like, oh, well, you get yours. And I remember working with this young entrepreneur, member of the team, and
Yeah.
he was just such a go-getter and just unafraid to just make the big ask. And most of the time he got the crazy things he asked for.
Yeah.
So he was making more money. He was getting more time off. He wasn't showing up at meetings he didn't need to do. So I developed, it was like, what would AJ do? And then like I applied that layer to like whatever would happen. And then there's that like ratcheting up effect where it's like, here's my default response. What would AJ do? Okay, what can I do that's in the middle of that? And that really helped me practice my boldness.
It's funny. I have, I teach people how to become real estate investors, but that involves talking to a lot of homeowners that are in distress, or losing their house, or in foreclosure, going through divorce, and they're just really in a distraught, unusual situation. Because not everyone is like, oh, I'm going to buy a house and go into foreclosure someday. That'd be so exciting. Like, they're really devastated then. And then a lot of new people are like, oh, I don't know what to say to people. I'm scared to talk. I'm like, listen, always imagine I'm standing next to you. And then when you find yourself feeling like you don't know, just say, well, what would Dwan do? Dwan would tell me to get my butt up and go talk to those people and go meet those people. And what would Dwan do? Dwan would not take my excuses for an answer. So I tell people that all the time. Like, if I was standing next to you, you would not put off making those calls or talking to that person or signing that contract, because I wouldn't let you do that. So I love the fact that you are like, hey, what would AJ do? Because little things like that sometimes can push a person to be a little more bold than they would naturally be, because you watch somebody else do that, and then you do that, and now you tell people how to do that.
It's true. And like something else I've discovered is they're just people. Like whoever you think they are, like out on stage or in the world, like they're just people. They probably have a spouse or a child who's sick of their crap. And, like they have things that they're putting off. They have things that they're not great at. For all the things that they're great at, there are also things they're not great at. And it's like, where's the bridge? Where's the commonality? Everybody just wants to feel better.
Yeah.
And I think when we come from the place of like helping people feel better, that helps me tap into how I can uniquely do that.
Yes. So we're going to have people start saying, what would Marissa do?
I hope so.
She talks to all these famous people and she's not nervous. So I'm going to tell people, listen, that's our new chant. What would Marissa do? What would Marissa do? See, right there. We're got a new chant for you and everything.
Oh man, but I love that, and I'll take it. But
take it.
So
Take it,
a bit ago though, you asked about my leap, and it was a pretty profound one, and it has to do with Peter Diamandis. So it's 2007. I'm freelancing. This is right before the crash, and where I got through the crash was it was all about. So I had my journalism degree. I wanted to be a travel writer. I was still like in that land, and I would approach website owners and basically pitch them on writing content, writing their brand stories, like writing their about pages, like writing their bios, but also writing their website content in the early days of SEO. And today we would call it content marketing, but it was really just kind of like hustling then. And so I would go, and I had a health company that I worked with, a food company. And I had like 5 or 6 of these kind of clients, and I was building up a portfolio. I was writing over at trendhunter.com, which is still around, and it's all about trend forecasting in different verticals. And I created this kind of framework because I discovered early on in freelancing that the more I was able to produce, the more money I was able to make. And so I could kind of really tap into the flexibility of remote work, because I've worked remotely since 2007. So this was like,
Nice.
you know, I just knew I never wanted to be in an office and have that whole life. So the game was all like, how can I write the most in the least amount of time and do it from anywhere? So that was my kind of thing. And then with Trend Hunter, I had this test pool of interns, and I would help them over 4 months go from 0 published articles to 1,000 published articles using this framework. How to find your ideas, filter down to the good ones, get your ideas out into a consumable short format, and do it again and again and again, 25 to 35 times a day, 5 days a week. That's how you got to the 1,000 articles. So it was this like content factory, and which also involved keeping people motivated, keeping creatives feeling creative and productive. And so then this kind of flywheel started, where I could go and pitch these different websites and go, oh, it's a fashion website. I've got 1,300 articles in fashion. I've got, 800 articles in technology. So I could approach any technology.
Wow.
The automotive, I've got 1,500 automotive articles. So I was going
you can send
to
me 1,500 real estate investing articles, and I'll publish every one of them.
I mean, well, these days it'll cost you, but back in those days.
Now what's the girlfriend rate?
So I kind of had that little gig going. And then my husband in 2012 was deployed with the Army to Afghanistan for a year. So I had this like, here I am alone in our apartment with our 3 cats. I'm like, well, maybe I'll pick up another client. And I see this online job ad in some of the forums I'd been lurking, and it was busy entrepreneur seeks online community manager. And I'll never forget it. It was like, because they didn't name the entrepreneur, no name, but it was like, by the first year, you will have, and it was the longest job ad. It was so detailed. It was so results oriented, and pretty ambitious. And I now know that was meant to filter people out. So I'm like, oh, let me go for it. I go for it. Long story long, I get through this like 3-month hiring process to get to a 3-month trial period. Turns out it was Peter Diamandis. The year is 2012. His book Abundance had come out. It was a bestseller for 8 or 9 weeks, and he had this massive community, and he was like, what do I do with this? So it was the funniest interview, because he's just like telling me about all the things that we'll build together. He's like, I'm going to build a team around you. We're going to grow. We're going to travel. We're going to do all these things. I'm like, I love this. This sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So we get going, and the woman who hires me 2 weeks into my 3-month trial, she goes back to Beijing to visit family, basically never comes back to the job. So now I'm working, instead of through her and reporting to her, I'm working directly with Peter, and we're getting more done in 2 minutes, in 20 minutes than we had in 2 weeks. It was just magical, free flowing, back and forth. I very quickly became essential to him and started kind of orbiting around him. He called me the goddess of operations. So goddess was my title. So operations goddess. So very quickly on, we held a 2-day event, because he basically was getting all these speaking engagements from the popularity of abundance. And he was like, I want to create something for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to take these ideas and put them out into the world. And he goes, have you ever run an event? And I'm like, well, at the restaurant there were banquets, so like I did logistics. And, it's like, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out and learn along the way.
Of course.
So in January 2013, we had this 2-day event at Singularity University, one of his businesses, with Ray Kurzweil, the renowned futurist and Google's director of engineering. So it's those two on stage for 2 days. And I'm like organizing this event. We brought together entrepreneurs. It was like a small group of 70. I think they'd paid $5,000 or so to attend. In the audience are Dan Sullivan and Babs Smith and Joe Polish. So Joe Polish of Genius Network and Dan and Babs of Strategic Coach. And Dan pulls Peter and I aside afterwards, and he says, that was great, very informative. With a few tweaks to the format, I can put 150 of my entrepreneurs in every single year. And I think you can double the price. and I don't want a nickel of commission. I just want exposure to the ideas and to be able to bring my team to experience the content and the knowledge and benefit from it. This was like the deal you can't refuse. It's like, I'll build your business. So anyway, we said yes. And then basically Peter turns to me and he's like, you're going to go with me to coach meetings, like listen to everything they say and like, let's just do it. So I start now going to Strategic Coach. And now this is a membership community that people are paying, upwards of $35,000 a year to be part of.
Yeah.
And I'm in the back of the room and I'm synthesizing and I'm doing the exercises along with, and I'm participating and networking. But also I'd fly into Toronto a couple days early and work out of the Strategic Coach headquarters, because Dan doesn't have an office. He works in the cafe. And so I would kind of just rub elbows and shoulders and get to ask questions. And so I got this amazing relationship and this mentor relationship. I think, Dan has mentored and been a mentor to so many people.
So many.
And so to experience that as well. And so same with Genius Network, I was going in Peter's stead for many meetings and just reporting and participating on behalf of the business, which is now Abundance 360. Singularity University would go on to acquire Abundance 360 in 2018, which is, it was a great time to leave. But by then, it started managing a team of 10, 12 young entrepreneurs. We called them the Strike Force. Everybody orbited around Peter and supported him across his other businesses. And we came to a moment where I was like, okay, Peter, I'm not going to bloom in your shadow. And he was like, the world needs more women leaders like you, like go forth. And we just like left very lovingly and all of that. But along the way, I built up this amazing network, financial abundance, and just the ability to create and co-create with some of the most amazing minds. And our content was all around exponential technologies and how to teach business owners how to use them to change the world. So I got this master class in where the future is going, how technologies are going to intersect with different industries, and how we work, play, and live, and all through a lens of abundance and possibility. So I feel, even with all these changes that are happening, they are scary, but I've had that background and that exposure.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, there's something exponentially growing. Where's the opportunity? And that's been something that's served me so well. And, some of my business partners today are people I met through Abundance 360. And it's just been just this masterful community. And it all came through this online job ad, but importantly, walking through doors that open, not being afraid to learn, and just committing to excellence, if I'm honest.
You have just taken some leaps and bounds. They're amazing. Like, what a great story.
Thanks.
You are so inspiring and motivating. It's like, I want you to work with me. You're awesome. And you've really been exposed to some really great people.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, and
I'll
never
saw
forget
the opportunity too, and you took it, which is amazing. Because a lot of people would be afraid to, get in with some of these people. Like, oh, I don't know if I can perform and help them.
There was a moment where, and I fully agree with that. And there was a moment where I was traveling with Peter. We were in Mexico. We were meeting with the governor of Jalisco at the time. It's a different person now, and we were backstage and at an event, and the handlers were like ready to walk Peter for this meeting. And I just walked with him. I just went, I just kept pace. I just walked like I owned it. And then we got into this room, and it's like down this whole thing, and there's security and the earpieces and the whole thing. And then we get into this meeting. You see the flags up because they got the backdrop for the photo op. And I look into this long room. There's photographers and there's a bunch of women along the other side. And then there's these three men, because there were the three of the ministers of the different departments that were meeting with Peter, and then the governor. And so it's like, then there was like three men, and they're sitting around. And then I see Peter go in, and he just looks at me and he goes, and I went, and I just sat right down. I sat right down with them, because there was this moment where it's like, do I walk over with all the women who were no doubt the support team, like just standing over on the other side? Or do I go in with the government officials and the interpreter?
Go in.
Yep, I'm sitting down. So it's also like,
that's what I would have done. I don't know, I'm in.
Yeah. And it's like, there was this voice in me that was like, take your seat at the MFN table.
Yes,
Take your seat.
I love it. Gosh, you are so wonderfully inspiring. I love your whole story. I love all of it. So, so we're getting ready to get to our wrap up points. Let me just ask you a couple really random questions. What's your favorite food?
Give me a continent. Okay. Omakase, sushi. So you sit down and omakase is chef's choice, and they put down, you basically give them an upper budget limit at some places, or they'll have like a set fixed price, but it's 8 to 14 courses of whatever's freshest and whatever the chef feels is their expression. So you don't know what you're going to have until they put it down. Sometimes they ask you for allergies or
What
preferences.
is that called?
Omakase.
How do I not know that? Sushi is like my favorite thing.
Oh,
And both of my daughters speak Japanese fluently.
oh.
And we eat sushi all the time. Why do I not know about omakase? Okay, I'm going to find that out because I'm going to go have that.
And it's not available everywhere, but the chefs that do make it available are very proud to offer it. And they are, I've just tried so many interesting things that I would have never ordered, but have absolutely loved.
Oh, I love sushi. Ever since I took the first bite, it was like, oh my God, this is my, if I had only one thing to eat all my life, I would just eat all the things that are sushi. It is so. And my husband, 20 years married, he'd just like, I have a California roll. It's like, you've got to expand.
Yeah.
What's your favorite band? Do you have a favorite band of like all time?
Ooh. Okay. Fleetwood Mac.
Good girl. Fleetwood Mac is the best.
I was very tempted to go in different directions, but
and that's not really your generation either. Fleetwood Mac is the best. Oh my gosh, I love Fleetwood Mac. So first, we're going to see if we're able to get inside the mind of Marissa today. So, category 1, you're ridiculously efficient is your website, and efficient.af, which I can't tell you how much I love that. Is how people can find you. I can't even get over how much I love that. And you're about truth, about storytelling. You taught me about the amygdala. I don't know exactly. I'm going to Google it all over the place when we get done because it's so true. And you grew up in the LA area, ended up going to Penn State.
University of Pennsylvania.
University of Pennsylvania. Sorry. Stop. Oh, there it is. Sorry. My alarm's like, hey, University of Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. And graduated in journalism. I love that too. And you started a company to help people get their articles published. So I love that. You love sushi. You love Fleetwood Mac. Our new chant is, what would Marissa do? What would Marissa do? And you are the goddess of operations. Is that you? A little bit.
That is a bit of me for sure. I am a fractal, multi-dimensional human, and that
are so multi-dimensional. And so tell us one more time how everybody can find you.
Efficient.af or ridiculouslyefficient.com, or search for my name, Marissa Brassfield, Marissa Brassfield, Brassfield.
I love it. I'm going to sign up to all your stuff today. I love all of it. Every single social thing. I'm just like, I could talk to you for 5 hours and just, you are so, and I want to thank you for being so open and sharing so much too, because, you do a podcast too. Sometimes you have to like pull teeth to get people to talk. So I appreciate your openness and sharing your heart with us today because, I, as a podcaster, a fellow podcaster, I really appreciate that about you. So at the end of all of our shows, I have something I call the 5 equities of life: financial, physical, mental, spiritual, family. So I like our guests to give us an equity and an assignment, and all the listeners know that I ask them to do it for a week and see if it improves the quality of their life. If so, keep doing it. If not, at least they tried something new for a week. So we'd like you to honor us today and give us the equity and the assignment.
So this one is, I'm going to call it family.
Okay, family I
And
like.
the activity is to consciously, daily, write down at least one wonderful thing that happened during the week. And so it's like the thing, and then think through, what does it mean? Like, why was that such a great thing? And then what value does that represent for you? Like, what personal value does that one thing represent? So for example, I got a Peloton last week, and that was a great thing. And like my first workout, I just felt those endorphins. For me, it meant that I'm on the road to fitness. I've got a new fun way to generate my own energy. And what that says about me and the value is that I am a powerhouse capable of generating energy and power from within. So like, that's just one example, but do it every day for the week.
Okay.
And then see at the end how many values you've identified. You could do this personally, you could do it with your family environment, and
Yes.
if you're partnered, and come out of it, because eventually you'll have this list of values that are important to you, and they're like your North Star in determining what situations are right for you, what decisions, how to make certain decisions. So long as it's all in alignment with your values,
Yes.
there's no wrong.
I love that. All right, everyone. That is an assignment I expect everyone to do. I don't see how anyone could do an assignment like that and not feel good about things. And plus, it would help people mentally too. Write down good things. There's so many good things that happen. And I think sometimes people focus too much on the negative and not enough on the positive. But there's a lot of really great, like I even just consider like getting a spot at the grocery store in the very front spot. It's like, woohoo. Like I consider something like that, like a little tiny good thing that happened. To having to like truck all the way through in the sweltering heat of Florida.
Well, and it's also like, sometimes the best thing about the day is that you were really, really hot and you had an ice cold glass of water. But how good is that ice cold glass of water? Like a fabulous shower. Like
Yes.
when you are depleted and there's this, and just looking for and hunting that one thing, like forces you into a mode of gratitude, and you can't be angry and grateful at the same time.
Right? You cannot be. And, I think people always look for, I really, really do love that. I feel like a lot of people are always like, well, nothing good ever happens to me. And they're looking for something grand. But, like talking with you today, this has been a great thing. I would put this down as a list of something amazing that happened to me today.
Me too.
And people can look for like the tiniest, like, I'm happy today that I have the air conditioning because it's 90 degrees outside.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Because so many people don't. And I think people
Yes.
should be happy over every little tiny thing. If you start adding up all the small little things, you'll realize there's a lot of good that happens all day and all night.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a giant thing.
Sure.
So I love that. So I like that. Writing it down, what it means, thinking about, I just love the whole thing. So we are going to do that. So folks, we're here every week, same bad time, same bad channel. And if you learned anything today, if you had fun, anything, you were engaged with us, I want you to go to the most Dwanderful real estate podcast ever. Leave 5 stars, write an amazing review. I also want you to follow Miss Marissa over at category of 1. And also, she would like 5 stars and a great review, because we can't grow our podcast without all of you. And we both love doing it. And we share our hearts to help you guys learn, listen, and have a better life. And, we're always certainly interested in learning and listening back. So please do that. So before we go, do you have a parting word of wisdom?
Focus on the activities that give you energy, and also the activities that drain your energy. And if you can swap any of those so that you're focusing more on the things that give you energy and less on the things that drain your energy, like you naturally level up your life.
Oh, so that is so spot on. So spot on. Focus on the things. I like that. Focus on the good things. But if you're noticing after this one thing, you're exhausted all the time, get off that. Stop doing that. Like stop. I always tell people, like, stop people pleasing. If you stop people pleasing, that right there will make your life 90% better. All right, guys, everybody, remember, same bad time, same bad channel, and the truth is in the red letters. All right, ciao, everybody, and thank you so much for being my guest today. I have truly enjoyed you sharing your heart.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for dropping by to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever, making real estate investment Dwanderful each and every time. And for more information on how to make your real estate dreams a reality, keep an eye on Dwanderful.com and be sure to become a member.